Just when you thought the NBA was starting to even out, just when it started to look like there might be some level of parity throughout the league, the Warriors finally get fully healthy, and all of a sudden we're looking at arguably the best team in all of basketball. Their death lineup has looked nearly unstoppable in the few minutes that they've played together so far in this series, and there's a few reasons why. Draymond's got the ball down low here, and before we get any further, let's take a look at the spacing that the Warriors have established with this play. Draymond and Wiggins are on the strong side with only 2 defenders, and everyone else has their defender pulled completely out to the perimeter on the weak side. While all of this action is occurring on the other side of the court, Curry and Klay are going to switch, with Gordon now being matched up against Curry. Aaron Gordon is going to make the mistake of looking away for just a split second, and by then it's already too late. Draymond Green is going to be able to find Steph Curry on the cut for an easy layup, and Denver gets called for the goaltend. Now, if we rewind for just a second, let's take a look at what made this play possible. The Warriors have 4 perimeter threats and demand defensive attention at the 3-point line. With Jokic being forced to guard Draymond, that leaves them without a weak side help defender in the event of the drive. You could make the argument that that's Aaron Gordon's job, but he has to guard Curry all the way out at the 3-point line. The result is all of this spacing in the middle, and I don't need to tell you how great the Warriors are at making smart cuts. With a guy like Draymond Green facilitating the offense around these 4 perimeter threats, there's very little defense that can be played to slow them down. This lineup has been given all sorts of different nicknames, but for the sake of this video, we'll just call it the death lineup. This lineup capitalizes on the results of what happens to a defense when every player on the court is borderline elite at either shooting, cutting, driving, passing, or some combination of all of those. This play here may start off and immediately look like it's broken, but there's actually a lot going on. Draymond is going to set this pin down for Steph to get the ball up top, but he fumbles the pass and the ball ends up in Poole's hands. But if we look over here, Curry immediately relocated to the strong side corner, and Klay immediately sets another pin down for him. Both Aaron Gordon and Monte Morris are forced to react, having to try and establish who's guarding who. Poole looks to Curry, who prepares to receive the pass, but instead he's going to sling the ball to Klay Thompson for an easy layup. Now, what's the common theme in all of these scenarios? It's the spacing. The whole floor is completely opened up for cutters, which is a nightmare for any defense, nonetheless one as depleted as Denver's. The result of this lineup is an unheard of 142.6 offensive rating, 105.8 defensive rating, and a staggering 36.8 net rating at the time of this recording. That's the best offensive and net rating of any 5-man lineup that's played at least 20 minutes in the playoffs so far. This lineup is the purest definition of instant offense. You have 5 highly capable offensive players, 2 of which are 2 of the best shooters in the history of the game, one that's a quickly rising star with both perimeter shooting and slashing ability, a connecting offensive piece in Andrew Wiggins, and one of the best passing forwards of his era in Draymond Green. Now, there are undoubtedly flaws in Denver's defensive game plan, but we're going to see as these playoffs progress that this lineup is going to make even the best defenders look completely incompetent because it's just too difficult to stop. And keep in mind, this is with Steph Curry playing only 25 minutes per game and coming off the bench. Despite this, at the time of this recording, he's averaging 25.7 points, 4.7 assists on 55% shooting from the field, 44% shooting from 3, and I know not really the most impressive numbers in the world at first glance, but if you stretch those out to per 36 minutes, it gets a little more interesting. Steph is averaging 37 points per game and 6.7 assists. The question is, do you change what isn't broken? Curry has looked incredibly fresh every time he steps onto the court since he's been coming off the bench, allowing him to really leverage that off-ball movement that creates so much havoc for the defense. Keeping him fresh not only allows him to exhaust defenders that have to chase him all over the floor, it keeps his shot from deteriorating from fatigue. Now, I don't have the answer, but with how Jordan Poole has been playing, it might not hurt to see how long you can keep Curry coming off the bench for the sake of keeping him fresh. Poole has gone from being in the G League last season to now looking like a certified all-star. He's 7th in scoring in the playoffs so far with 28.7 points per game on an absurd 83.9 true shooting. He's been unstoppable, and he's really been showcasing his upside as a scorer. He doesn't just rely on perimeter scoring to get his points either. He's been slashing to the basket, using that jerky ball handling to get by his matchup or make a cutoff ball. He gives the ball to Draymond here, and he's got Bones Highland on him. If you look closely, he's gonna just barely juke like he's cutting back up to the perimeter, but Highland looks off him for just the tiniest second, and Poole is going to take that little bit of space to get the pass from Draymond for an easy cut for a layup. He capitalizes on the smallest amount of space that a defender will give him, and he makes the most of it. You know who else does this so well? Steph Curry. It's abundantly clear where Poole has learned this aspect of the game, and it's really unlocked another level for him as a scorer. He still has that isolation ability, but his ability to work off ball has opened up everything else for him. At the forefront of finding all of these cutters and connecting with movers away from the ball is Draymond Green. He's averaging the 5th most assists per game in the playoffs so far with 8.3 per night. We're going to get to his defense in a minute, but this playmaking aspect is arguably the most important piece of the puzzle for allowing the Warriors offense to maximize its full potential. Jokic has been his primary matchup, but with Jokic playing so high up on him, it leaves a gap on the interior. With how aware he is of what's going on the court at all times, he can see this missed switch with Curry making a baseline cut to the weak side. It allows him to connect on the pass to Curry, and without any big man there to help, Curry gets a cakewalk to 2 more points. This playmaking negates really any concern you could potentially have about his scoring ability, and it's also worth noting that he's shooting 37.5% from 3 through the first 3 games of the playoffs so far. Now on to the defense. Since we're talking about Draymond Green, it really is as good as people say it is. At only 6'6", Draymond has been making Jokic, who is a 7-footer and one of the most efficient scorers in the entire NBA for 2 years now, shoot with some of the worst efficiency of his career. Jokic is big enough to back guys down, but you can see that Draymond doesn't let him bully him to the rim. He forces him left, and when Jokic goes for the spin move, Draymond swats the ball down, leading to a steal. I mean, what can I really say about his defense? He's completely annihilating any and all space Jokic has and forcing him into a bad shot. His ability to completely cancel out the height disadvantage that he might have is something that's incredibly valuable to the Warriors being able to succeed on the defensive end. He's their defensive anchor, their quarterback, and even point of attack defender at times. He quite literally does everything for them. At this point, we have to ask ourselves, is there really any team better than them? With Devin Booker out for the Suns and the Bucks without Middleton indefinitely, the only other team that holds a candle to them is Boston, who also looks dominant. There's a chance we see the Warriors march their way through the Western Conference and into the Western Conference Finals, and I don't see anyone on their level that could really stop them. So, do you think that the Warriors are the favorites to win it all? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. As always, if you're new and you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It's totally free and it helps me out a ton. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.